The story begins in China, where a long war is depicted, a war in which thousands of people lost their lives, and the population was rapidly declining. So, the king there, Daiko, decided to seek the help of demons. He then enters a secret chamber, where 48 demon statues were kept. Daiko tells the demons that his father, brothers, and uncles have all died in this war. If this continues, he too will die, and if nothing is done now, their entire lineage will be wiped out forever. Therefore, Daiko seeks the demons' help to destroy his enemies. The demons agree to help, but in return, they want the body of his first child. Eventually, Daiko agrees to their terms and vows to sacrifice his first child in exchange for the destruction of his enemies. As soon as he says this, a powerful lightning bolt strikes his forehead, leaving a cross mark. Just then, a priest arrives and learns that Daiko has made a deal with the demons for his son's body. But Daiko wants to keep this a secret, so he kills the priest. 20 years later, we see a young man wearing a long hoodie, arriving in a small village. There was an orphan girl in the village who disguised herself as a boy. She had lost her parents at a young age and had to resort to petty theft to survive. Meanwhile, the young man enters a bar in disguise, searching for his prey. During a dance, a masked woman appears on the stage. The young man approaches the stage. Then, a swordsman attacks him, but the young man stops the sword with his bare hand. However, his hand is cut, and a blade emerges from the cut. He then uses the blade in his hand to cut off the woman's mask. The woman's true form is revealed, and they realize she is a demon disguised as a human. Just then, the demon transforms into a terrifying scorpion and attacks the young man. She tries to kill him with her legs, but despite being injured, the young man's body suddenly heals. He then uses the blade in his hand to sever the demon's head from her body. He then removes his broken hand and reattaches a new one. The demon's entire body is torn to pieces. Then, as he starts to walk, his leg suddenly detaches and falls to the ground, and a new leg forms in its place. What fell was a fake leg, and it soon dissolves into dust. Seeing this, the girl becomes terrified and tries to run away. But the young man approaches her and pulls out his eyeballs, asking, "How do I look?" This terrifies the girl so much that she immediately flees. The girl then goes to an old man and asks him about the warrior boy. The old man says that 20 years ago, a sorcerer was collecting medicinal herbs by a river to enhance his magical powers. He noticed a wooden container floating in the river. When he pulled it closer, he saw the body of a child without hands, legs, eyes, nose, or ears. But the child was still breathing. So the sorcerer took him home and decided to keep him alive. Then, he himself thought of giving the child a new body. The sorcerer went to an abandoned village from a war and collected various parts of dead human bodies. He returned home, melted the corpses, and mixed them with his secret medicine to create a magical liquid. Then, he created a heart by infusing electricity into the liquid. He then made all the organs, one by one, and attached them to the child's body. After that, the sorcerer shocked the child with electricity. The child began to move. Then, the sorcerer attached blades to his hands. Later, when the child grew a little older, the sorcerer taught him martial arts. The child's mental abilities were so strong that, despite being blind and deaf, he became an extraordinary warrior. Thus, a few years passed. One day, the sorcerer died due to illness. But before dying, he told the boy to set the entire house on fire. Because if his magical methods fell into Daiko's hands, he would become immortal forever. There would be terrible wars everywhere, and the whole world would be destroyed. So, after the sorcerer's death, the boy set the house on fire. But after everything was destroyed, he heard a voice. The voice told him that 48 demons had stolen parts of his body. To get those parts back, he would have to kill all 48 demons with the blades given by the sorcerer. After hearing the warrior boy's entire story, the orphan girl decided to help him in his mission to destroy the demons. She came to the boy and asked his name. The boy said, "Tell me your name first." The girl said, "I don't have a name, but people call me Dororo." Hearing this, the boy replied, "I don't have a name either, but everyone calls me Hyakimaru." Anyway, Hyakimaru refused to take Dororo with him. But Dororo was very stubborn, so Hyakimaru finally took her along. Then, when they were resting by a river, a giant demon child appeared before them. Hyakimaru followed him to a ruined temple. Hyakimaru then revealed that many children had died in this temple, and the demon child was born from the connection of their souls. Anyway, after a while, Dororo woke up and heard some sounds. Hyakimaru went outside and saw a couple who had come to offer food for the souls of the dead children. But the truth was that years ago, they had abandoned their children in this temple out of fear of war. After learning their story, Dororo became very angry and said that they were unforgivable. Then, in anger, she threw away the food they had brought. Dororo then went into the forest. Hyakimaru followed her. Soon, the owner of the place arrived on his horse. He invited them to rest at his house and said he wanted to hear their travel stories. Since it was night, they agreed to go to the man's house, where his wife and 7 daughters were dressed like Chinese dolls. After eating, they went to sleep. Meanwhile, the 7 sisters decided which guests they would eat first. Then, all 7 of them transformed into strange demon insects and surrounded Dororo. But Hyakimaru was already prepared for their attack. As soon as Dororo opened her eyes, she saw that Hyakimaru had killed all 7 demon insects. Then, they saw that the demon child, born from the souls of the children in the temple, was showing them a way to escape. They then reached a secret chamber, where many human bones were scattered. They realized that these were the bones of the children. Suddenly, Hyakimaru saw soldiers like the demon insects approaching. They moved forward and found a staircase, which they climbed. Then, Hyakimaru suspected that the man's wife must be a demon who had disguised herself as a scholar and brought the children, whose parents had abandoned them, to him. He then killed those children and fed their flesh to his own children. Meanwhile, when the demon learns that Hyakimaru has killed her 7 daughters, she orders her husband to kill Hyakimaru and Dororo. But just then, Hyakimaru enters the man's room and tells him to stay away from his demon wife, because, in the end, she will subdue him and turn his soul into a slave. On the other hand, Dororo quickly goes to the nearby village and shows the villagers the true form of the scholar to whom they had left their children. Finally, all the villagers join Dororo and prepare to eliminate the demon, and Hyakimaru was preventing the man from siding with his wife. Then, the demon comes from behind and thrusts a sword into the chests of Hyakimaru and her husband. The man dies, but since all of Hyakimaru's body parts were artificial, nothing happened to him. Then, the demon reveals her true form, and a fierce battle begins between them. At one point, the demon was trying to escape, when the souls of the children from the temple strike her from various directions, bringing her down. At that moment, Hyakimaru slices the demon in half with his special sword. Then, all the villagers eliminate the remaining insects. The souls of their children are freed from captivity. Finally, Hyakimaru regains his real liver, and the sorcerer's artificial liver falls to the ground. Then, Hyakimaru and Dororo set out on their next mission. As they were walking through the forest, another terrifying demon appeared before them. This demon resembled a tree with human heads attached to it. The demon tightly wrapped Hyakimaru with its thick hair and tried to crush him to death. However, Hyakimaru somehow freed himself and realized that the demon was actually hiding in the tree trunk. So Hyakimaru split the trunk in half with his blades, killing it. This resulted in his left ear being restored. Shortly after, they encountered a demon lizard with no arms. It grabbed Hyakimaru with its tongue, threw him away, and pounced on him. Then, Dororo somehow freed Hyakimaru, but the lizard caught her again. It tried to chew Hyakimaru with its tongue. Then, Dororo struck the lizard's head with her knife, giving Hyakimaru the opportunity to cut off the lizard's tongue with his sword. However, the lizard still pursued them. It was impossible to kill the lizard from the outside because its skin was very tough. So Hyakimaru went inside its mouth and cut open its stomach from within. And it was destroyed there. Finally, Hyakimaru regained his throat and heard his own voice for the first time. Their next battle was against a demon in the form of a hawk. Hyakimaru engaged in a fierce aerial battle with it, but the hawk threw him off its back and struck him with a large rock. Then, the hawk pushed him off a cliff, but Hyakimaru saved himself from falling by embedding his blades into a rock. By then, Dororo struck the hawk's head with a rock. Then, the hawk chased Dororo. This gave Hyakimaru the opportunity to strike its face repeatedly and cut off the hawk's head with his sword. However, before dying, the hawk said something that troubled Hyakimaru. The hawk said, "If you have to be angry with anyone, it's your father. He came to us to sacrifice you. We didn't go to him." With these words, the hawk's body disintegrated, and Hyakimaru's left hand was restored. But now, his mind was filled with questions. Anyway, they moved on. After walking for some distance, they reached the border between Kaniya and Daiko kingdoms. Daiko's royal palace was visible in the distance. Dororo angrily said, "Daiko brutally murdered my parents." That day, Daiko's soldiers destroyed their entire village because they suspected that the villagers had joined Kanyamoru. Dororo and her mother secretly watched the entire village being destroyed. The soldiers killed Dororo's father before their eyes. On that day, only Dororo and her mother survived in the entire village. They had to wander from place to place to earn a living. Then, Dororo's mother told her that she had to live like a boy until she became a true hero like her father. Dororo vowed to take revenge for her parents' deaths by killing Daiko and every member of his family. Soon, 3 of Daiko's soldiers came to them and started questioning them. Dororo became angry seeing them. Then, the soldiers threatened to slit her throat. Hearing this, Yakimaru got angry, and they both killed the 3 soldiers. Then, they both came to the village. But here, Yakimaru got into a fight with a man. Then, the prince noticed him. Seeing Yakimaru's skills, he invited him to his palace and offered him to join his army and fight for the country. Then, he was taking Yakimaru to introduce him to his father, Daiko. But before that, his mother stood in front of them. Seeing Yakimaru, his mother asked where the cloth around his neck came from. When Yakimaru held the queen's hand, she saw the day when she had floated him down the river. Actually, Daiko had forced her to abandon their child, and having no other option, she had placed Yakimaru in a wooden container and floated him down the river. Then, Yakimaru realized that he was Daiko's first child. As soon as this thought came to her mind, the mother fainted. Her younger son took care of his mother. Then, Yakimaru took the opportunity and left from there. After a while, the queen told Daiko that their first child had returned. But Daiko did not believe it and said that the queen had gone mad. Later, Dororo met Yakimaru again by a river. Then, Yakimaru revealed that he was Daiko's first child. Dororo could not believe it. Then, Yakimaru held her hand and showed her everything that had happened in the palace. Then, Yakimaru told Dororo to kill him, but Dororo was so shocked that she stood still. Then, Yakimaru was leaving and said that from today he would never come before Dororo again. But just then, Dororo ran and stabbed him in the back. Suddenly, the old man appeared there, who had shown Dororo Yakimaru's beginning. He told Yakimaru that his father Daiko had given his body parts to 48 demons in exchange for the protection of his kingdom. Then, Yakimaru said that he would cut off 48 body parts of his father so that his father could feel Yakimaru's pain. But then, Dororo stopped him from doing so, because, no matter what, he was his father. After a while, 2 new demons came there and attacked Yakimaru. They were fighting like mad dogs, as if they had been hungry for a long time. But Yakimaru killed them with his sword again. As soon as he did this, his 2 eyes returned, and for the first time in his life, he saw the world around him. Before this, he only fought with the demons by sensing their power. Then, the world told him that she had given up the decision to take revenge against Daiko's lineage. And now she wants Yakimaru to erase the hatred within himself as well. Anyway, the next morning, Tahumaru sets out in search of his elder brother. Meanwhile, Daiko goes to the demons and says that despite the sacrifice made 20 years ago, wars are still going on in his country. Then, a demon says that all this is because of his first child, because he was supposed to be dead long ago, but he is still alive. Hearing this, Daiko himself sets out to kill Yakimaru. Meanwhile, Yakimaru and Dororo are suddenly attacked by Tahumaru's soldiers. Then, Yakimaru tells the old man to take Dororo and leave from there. Then, he faces the soldiers himself. Just then, an explosion occurs, and Tahumaru himself attacks to kill Yakimaru. A fierce battle begins between them, but Yakimaru's intention was to stop his brother from attacking. But Tahumaru did not stop, and their fight continued. When a third soldier tried to kill Yakimaru from behind, Yakimaru defended with his sword, but the sword broke and pierced Tahumaru's throat. Just then, the queen arrives and sees that a broken piece of sword has cut her younger son's throat. So, the queen comes forward with a knife to kill Yakimaru. But at that moment, Daiko comes there to kill Yakimaru. Then, the queen steps forward to save her first child's life. But Daiko kills his wife in an instant without thinking anything. Seeing this, Yakimaru gets angry and moves to kill Daiko. Dororo tries to stop him, but Yakimaru knocks her unconscious with a single blow. Then, a terrible battle begins between Daiko and Yakimaru, as both were thirsty for each other's blood. Finally, Daiko gets tired. But still, he says that he has no regrets about sacrificing his son's body to the demons. Now, as Yakimaru is about to deliver the final blow, he sees Tahumaru's body floating in the air. At that moment, a demon says that he will revive him if Daiko hands over his body to the demon. Yakimaru tries to stop Daiko, but Daiko was ready to do anything to revive his son. So he agrees to the demon's terms. As soon as he does this, a giant demon descends from the sky and tears off Daiko's head and eats it. Then, a new head appears in its place, which is now possessed by the demon. At that moment, Tahumaru is revived. But now, this demon is going to destroy the whole country. Just then, Daiko's soul emerges for a moment, and he tells Yakimaru to kill the demon immediately. Yakimaru kills Daiko's body, as he says, which also contains the demon. Before dying, Daiko declares Tahumaru the new king and gives him the responsibility of running the country. Soon, the entire army arrives there, but Tahumaru orders them to stop. At that moment, Hyakimaru's real heart returns. Then, Tahumaru and Hyakimaru both return to the palace. Tahumaru requests his elder brother to become the king. But Hyakimaru says that he still has to get back the rest of his body parts from the demons. Until he gets his full body back, he cannot take any responsibility. Tahumaru says that he will wait for Hyakimaru, as he is the rightful heir to the throne. Then, he gives Hyakimaru his father's sword. Then, Hyakimaru goes to meet Dororo, who was waiting for him at the border of the two countries. Seeing Hyakimaru, Dororo starts crying, because she thought he would never return. She becomes very happy and kicks Hyakimaru hard in the stomach and says, "Learn to be careful from now on, okay? Because now your real body parts are coming back." And this is where this beautiful movie ends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more new stories like this. We will talk again in the next video. Until then, everyone stay well, stay healthy. Bye-bye.